I call the member for Kooyong.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I rise to support the member for North Sydney's amendments to the Parliamentary Budget Office legislation, or bill. We start from the position that the Parliamentary Budget Office is a net positive, and it's not new. An OECD survey found that another 18 countries have some sort of legislative or parliamentary involvement in setting the fiscal situation. The United States has a $45 million per annum budget for their Parliamentary Budget Office. The Dutch Parliamentary Budget Office has more than 150 staff, and we've heard about the Canadian Budget Office. Indeed, this is our idea, and ever since 2007 the Coalition has driven the idea of a Parliamentary Budget Office, and that is why the Shadow Treasurer has before the Parliament his own bill. And it's because those opposite have such a poor record with costing and releasing their policies that we need a Parliamentary Budget Office. You will remember that in 2007 you released your costings the day before the election. In 2010 you released your costings the day before the election.
The member for Kooyong, I just remind the member for Kooyong, please do not refer to, in your speech, as you. You're referring to me in this occupied chair of the Deputy Speaker. You refer to the government as the opposition. Please,
Mr Deputy Speaker, I was simply making the point that when it comes...
But you will not refer your comments through the chair, not at the chair.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The point is that those opposite have a very poor record when it comes to releasing and costing their policies. And what happened in 2007 and at the election in 2010 bears that out. Now, this Parliamentary Budget Office amendments that we are moving will in fact bring greater transparency to the fiscal situation and fiscal process. It will ensure that non-government MPs and senators and parties have access to the proper costings, and it mitigates against the disadvantage that those in opposition have against a better resourced government. And we only have to look at what happened with our costings before the last election, when we were looking at the interest to be saved from not proceeding with the NBN, and we used the Commonwealth bond rate at the discount rate. And it was then the NBN implementation study which showed that you should have used the Commonwealth bond rate to assess the amount of savings that you would from not proceeding with the NBN, and you wouldn't have that information released. Now, there are three key criteria that our amendments to this bill are pushing. Firstly, the confidentiality. That requests to have policies costed should not be immediately put up on the website when they're received. Secondly, the timing of the release of those costings should not be immediately put up and made on the website and made public once they are done. It should be up to those who are seeking those costings to assess the timing of that release, whether they in fact want to resubmit a request for costing, or whether they want to change the assumptions on which they are putting forward their particular policy, or they want to discuss and alter those particular assumptions. Secondly, there needs to be less restrictions on the PBO in the ability to source material to make their analysis. As the member for North Sydney said, why can't ABARE, why can't the Reserve Bank of Australia be able to provide information to the Parliamentary Budget Office for them to make their analysis? Why restrict it to those reports under the Charter of Budget Honesty? That will very much limit the quality of the analysis that is done. And thirdly, we must increase the powers, Madam Deputy Speaker, of the PBO, of the Parliamentary Budget Office, to get information from other departments. Currently, under the government's bill, it's about an MOU. It's just about an MOU with departments, but not giving them the ability to compel those departments to release that information. That is why the member for North Sydney has very appropriately suggested that we should use powers akin to those of the Auditor General to ensure that we release, the powers of Auditor General in order to source that material from other departments. Madam Deputy Speaker, the independents have a privileged position at the moment. They are getting assistance from the government, particularly the Greens. But that won't always be the case. They need to get behind these amendments that we are moving because they are right for the Parliament and right for the Budget Office.